So I'd like to tell you about another book that has made a big impact on the way that I see the world. That's a book called David and Goliath, also by Malcolm Gladwell. This book is all about, as it says here, underdogs, misfits, and the art of battling giants. And what Gladwell does is he goes through recorded history and looks at different competitions, so to speak. All these different times when maybe two competing forces were significantly missized. So you can think of David and Goliath, for example. Goliath should have won the battle, from our perspective, and David was kind of this little scrawny guy who comes in and beats Goliath. And Malcolm Gladwell looks at these different battles throughout time. He looks at all types of different things between sports and also battles between countries, the world wars and things like that. And he looks at these times when one of the opponents is much stronger than the smaller guy. And more often than should happen, the smaller guy or the underdog comes through and actually wins. And so he tries to kind of pick apart why that is. What is it about being the underdog that allows them to overcome these seemingly insurmountable challenges? One example he gives in particular is a girls' basketball team in Silicon Valley, I believe. It's a high school basketball team. All the dads of these girls are like computer engineers, working for the tech companies in Silicon Valley. And these girls really don't have a whole lot of talent. And this coach comes in and is able to take this team of girls to a state championship. And the way he does it, and what Gladwell is showing here, is that this is the way that most underdogs do it, is that they find a way to win in an unconventional way. They don't play by the unspoken rules that the greats or the dominant figures in society are playing by. They play by the rules of quote unquote desperation. So, for example, this basketball team, the coach realizes that these girls are not going to win any basketball games if they play basketball the same way that everyone else does. And so what he does is he teaches them to do a full court press. Now, a full court press is something that most teams only use for the last couple minutes in a moment of kind of desperation. If they're down by a few points, then putting the full court press can put some pressure on the other team and make them make a mistake or something. And it's kind of a last ditch effort, but it's not the elegant, quote unquote, way of playing basketball. Well, he knew that they couldn't play the game the way that everyone else did. And so he taught these girls how to full court press all game, every game. And so for practices, they were doing aerobic exercises. They were doing things to get their endurance up, to get their athleticism up to the point where they could play an entire game of full court pressing. It takes a lot more energy. Now, it doesn't take a lot of skill necessarily to full court press, but it takes a lot of energy. And so that's what he did with his practices, and he took this team to the state championship, and I believe that they won it, if I remember correctly. So he goes through these different examples of how these underdogs have overcome these giants in their lives. And the main theme, at least that I got out of it, is that what these underdogs do is they find a new way to fight the battle. They find a new way to overcome that giant by playing the game in an unconventional way. Now, I think that all of us feel like the underdogs in some aspect of our lives. And this concept gives me a lot of hope that I can overcome the giants in my life, but I'm going to have to think unconventionally. I'm going to have to think about the unspoken rules of this game and think about a new way to play the game that rolls the dice in my favor. I hope you take the time to read this book. It has a lot of insight, a lot of great examples of times in history when this has happened, and it's given me a lot of courage and hope for the future.